A few summers ago, I found myself struggling with reading a book that I'd been meaning to read for a very long time. I just couldn't focus. I was rereading the same paragraph over and over, wondering why I'm so slow at this, whether I should learn to speed read. Why haven't I read this book before? I felt frustrated and drained. It was one of those days where you wonder how you managed to read anything. But instead of pushing through and feeling increasingly drained and frustrated, I paused. I wondered why? What was actually going on? What was having me struggle? Why was I feeling this way? It was the 90s and the early 00s. Internet discussion forums were booming. With the impersonal attributes of text and the anonymity of the internet, we found that discussions would often spiral out of control, the infamous flame wars. We wondered what to do about them. Okay, when I say we, I was like 8, so I wasn't moderating at the time. We noticed a trend. When people would talk about the people in the conversation, or about how the conversation was going, it would quickly spiral into ad hominem attacks and conversations about style over substance. This was meta-discussion, discussion about the discussion or its participants. Meta-discussion was like a black hole that sucked the debate into the abyss, never to return to substance again. Your tone could have been better. Well, I don't like your comments on my tone. All of this is meta-discussion. So some of these communities implemented the rule. No meta-discussion. Relentlessly stick to content, even when you're being provoked. Back to my reading adventure, I realized that I was doing meta-discussion to myself, and it was having exactly the same effect internally as it did between people on internet forums. I was telling myself things like, why am I such a slow reader? Why haven't I read this before? It's a classic, I'm supposed to have read it already. Ugh, I've just read the same paragraph 5 times, what's wrong with me? I'll never finish reading the book at this rate. What if I'm just bad at reading? Not one of these things was about Plato's essentialism, or Heraclitus's question of whether it's possible to have social order given that everything is in flux, or the question of whether history is destined to repeat itself, although it certainly felt like it at the time. None of them were about content. They were all about form, me, attributes of me as a person, how good I am at reading, my future. Just about everything but what I think of the book. Meta-discussion is pernicious because you're always tempted to respond to meta with more meta. You want to defend yourself, or excuse yourself, or come up with a plan so that you don't get attacked. When I was reading, my thoughts quickly went from, why haven't I read this before, to, why am I so bad at reading, to, should I learn to speed read so I can read more? Which might be fine questions in their own right, but they are wildly off topic to the question at hand. I was finding myself creating a defensive plan in order to change my lifestyle to respond to this internal meta discussion about whether I was okay as a person for if I've read this book before. Meta breeds meta, and each layer of meta gets you further and further away from the original topic. But as soon as I stopped thinking in meta, stopped thinking about my thought processes, stopped thinking about my progress, stopped thinking about my value as a person, as soon as I started thinking about the content of the book, I relaxed into it, and I had fun. It can be difficult to stick to the on-topic content when there are so many thoughts buzzing around in your head. But noticing a thought is meta makes it possible to just drop. You can tell yourself, okay, that's meta, what is the object level thing? Now, because what meta does is change the topic, another thing that you can do is get good at separating what problem are you working on. But that's the topic for the next video, which will be here if it's out already, and if not, boop subscribe, give that bell a tickle, and I'll see you in the next one. Have fun.